Hey, my name's Landon. I'm 25 years old and I work at the Westbrook Suites Hotel downtown. It's not some fancy five-star place, but it's nice, clean, and busy. I'm what they call a maintenance technician, but honestly, I just fix whatever breaks: clogged toilets, leaky sinks, broken lights. You name it, I've handled it. I live just a few blocks from the hotel in a small studio apartment. Nothing fancy, but it works. I like simple things. I'm not the kind of guy who goes looking for excitement, but sometimes life throws something at you when you least expect it. That night started like any other. We'd been slammed all day. I barely had time to eat. I had a list of maintenance requests as long as my arm. One of them was for a dripping faucet in room 6 I meant to check it earlier, but the day had gotten away from me. I wasn't sure if the room had been checked into or not. When I passed by in the morning, it was still vacant. Housekeeping hadn't mentioned anything. It was almost evening when I finally had a free moment. I grabbed my toolkit and headed up to the sixth floor. Standing in front of room 614, I hesitated. I could have used my master key to enter, but if someone had checked in without me knowing, that wouldn't go over well. So I did what I always do in these situations. I knocked. I waited about 30 seconds. No sound. I was just about to pull out my key when I heard the lock click. The door swung open quickly, and before I could even say a word, a hand grabbed the front of my work shirt. A woman, probably in her early 30s, stunning, dressed in a silky robe, pulled me inside and closed the door. "What took you so long?" she whispered urgently, staring at me with intense green eyes. I was frozen. My mind raced. What the hell was happening? "Ma'am, I think you have it wrong." I started, but she wasn't listening. She backed me up to the couch and gently pushed me down. I sat there completely dumbfounded while she sat next to me far too close. "I was starting to think you weren't going to show up," she said, her voice soft but firm. I cleared my throat nervously. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm just with maintenance. I was sent to fix the sink." She leaned in, her hand resting on my chest. "Chill, there's no need for that now." Her face moved closer. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I had no idea what to do. I knew I should have stood up and left immediately, but it was like my body wouldn't cooperate. And then, just as her lips brushed against mine, there was a loud knock at the door. She froze, we both did. Another knock, louder this time. She pulled back instantly, her eyes wide with panic. "Oh my God," she whispered. "That's him. That's who I was waiting for." I stared at her in disbelief. "I told you I'm not—" "Shh," she hissed, grabbing my arm and practically dragging me toward the bathroom. "You can't be here. He can't see you." I stumbled inside, still holding my toolkit, and she shut the door firmly behind me. I stood there cramped between the toilet and the tiny sink, completely stunned. I could hear muffled voices through the door. The man had come in. They were talking casually, almost like nothing had happened. I stood still, barely breathing, my heart racing in my chest. Time passed painfully slowly. I had no idea what I had just walked into. All I knew was I'd knocked on the wrong door, and now I was in the middle of something I never could have imagined. I stood there not knowing when or if I'd be able to leave. I stood in that tiny hotel bathroom, frozen. The cold porcelain sink pressed against my hip, my toolkit awkwardly wedged between my feet. My heart was still hammering like a drum. I strained to hear what was going on outside. I could barely make out voices, hers and his. She laughed lightly, nervously. He sounded casual, maybe a little impatient. I didn't dare move. I didn't even want to breathe too loudly. I just kept thinking, how the hell did I end up here? From what I could tell, the man had no idea I was in the bathroom. At one point, I heard him ask something about the bathroom. "I'll get you a towel," she quickly answered. Then silence. I could almost hear her thinking on the other side of the door, planning how to keep me hidden. I stayed dead still. I don't know how long I stood there, 15 minutes, 30, maybe more. It felt like forever. Eventually, I heard the unmistakable sound of the TV turning on. Their voices became softer, a low murmur I couldn't make out. My legs were going numb from standing in the same position for so long. At one point, I tried quietly sitting on the edge of the tub. It creaked softly under my weight, and I froze, praying no one heard. Thankfully, they didn't. The hours dragged by. I couldn't believe this was happening. I thought about texting my supervisor, but what would I even say? Hey, I'm trapped in a guest bathroom because a woman thought I was someone else and pulled me into her room. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I thought about just walking out, taking the risk, facing whoever was out there. But every time I even shifted my weight, my gut told me to stay put. I kept replaying what had happened, the way she grabbed my shirt, the way she whispered, "What took you so long?" The panic when the knock came. I still didn't even know her name. At some point, the voices faded. I figured they'd both fallen asleep. I waited longer just to be sure. My legs were cramping badly. I stood up and paced as quietly as I could, stretching out the stiffness. The sun hadn't even come up yet. Finally, I heard movement. The front door of the room opened, then closed. A wave of relief swept over me. I waited another full minute before I dared knock softly on the inside of the bathroom door. There was no answer. I cracked the door open and peeked out. The living area was empty. Only she was there, standing near the window, fully dressed, looking tense and exhausted. She turned sharply when she heard the door. Her face softened the second she saw me. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." I stepped out, feeling ridiculous, still holding my stupid toolkit like it was a shield. "I don't even know what just happened," I said, shaking my head. She smiled nervously. "You weren't supposed to be the one knocking on that door. I thought you were someone else. I panicked when I realized my mistake." "Yeah," I chuckled dryly. "You could say that again." We both stood there for a second in awkward silence. I could tell she was embarrassed, but she also looked genuinely relieved that I wasn't angry. "I know this sounds insane," she said quietly, "but you can't tell anyone about this. I mean it. He can't know. No one can know." I nodded. "Don't worry, I don't even know what I'd say." She smiled faintly. "Thank you, really." I turned to leave, wanting to get out of that room as fast as possible. As I reached for the door, she called out, "Wait!" I looked back. "Do you want to grab a coffee downstairs?" she asked. "I mean, just to decompress. I feel terrible about what happened." I hesitated. The rational part of me screamed, "Get out of here now." But something about her expression stopped me. She looked human in that moment, vulnerable even. "Sure," I said, quietly. "I could use some caffeine." We left the room and took the elevator down in silence. That was the most surreal night of my life. I had no idea then that it was only the beginning. We sat across from each other at a small table near the hotel's cafe window. The early morning sunlight spilled in through the glass, making the entire lobby glow. I was still in my maintenance uniform, feeling out of place. She wore jeans and a light sweater, now her hair pulled back casually. Neither of us spoke right away. I stared at the coffee in front of me, unsure how to even begin. "I'm Selena," she finally said softly, breaking the silence. "Landon," I replied, glancing up at her. She gave me a faint smile. "I know, I saw your name tag last night." We both chuckled awkwardly, the tension easing just slightly. "Look," I started. "I'm not trying to pry, but what exactly happened up there? You thought I was someone else." Selena took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes, I made a huge mistake. I've never done anything like that before." I raised an eyebrow but said nothing, waiting. "I was meeting someone," she continued, her voice low. "Someone important to me. He was supposed to arrive at 8. When you knocked, I assumed it was him. I didn't think for even a second that it might be someone else." I sipped my coffee thinking, I figured something like that, but why pull me in? Why not just wait? She gave a sad, tired smile. "Because if anyone saw him in the hallway, if anyone found out he was even there, it would have been a disaster." I panicked. "I thought pulling you in would stop any suspicion." I frowned. "That seems risky." "I know," she whispered. "You have no idea how stupid I feel right now." We sat in silence for a moment. I studied her. Underneath the confident surface, she looked worn out. There was something heavy sitting on her shoulders. I'm not going to report anything, I finally said. I'm not even sure what I'd report. Honestly, I just want to pretend none of this happened. Selena let out a soft laugh of relief. Thank you. I appreciate that more than you know. The waitress brought more coffee and we both quietly thanked her. Selena stared out of the window for a long time before speaking again. I'm not who you probably think I am. I didn't respond. I just waited. I'm not some reckless person. I don't run around with strangers. The man I was meeting, he's a high-ranking official. We've had an arrangement for a while. Nothing romantic, more like a business transaction. I stayed silent but raised an eyebrow. I needed help with something, she continued. Important legal documents. He promised to help if I kept things discreet. We'd meet here occasionally, always quietly, always privately. Last night was supposed to be the last meeting. I nodded slowly. So this was about getting what you needed. Yes. Her eyes met mine, vulnerable and honest. I know how it looks. I've had to do things I never thought I'd do, but I've never compromised who I am. I've kept my dignity. Last night was a terrible accident. I get it, I said. You don't have to explain everything. I wanted to, she replied, because you're different. You didn't freak out. You stayed calm. You didn't take advantage of the situation. I can't stop thinking about that. I shifted uncomfortably in my chair. I just did what anyone decent would do. Not everyone would have, she said softly. We finished our coffees mostly in silence. The sun was higher now and guests were starting to fill the lobby. As we stood up to leave, she touched my arm gently. I know this was crazy and awkward and embarrassing, but I'm glad it was you who knocked on my door, she said with a tiny smile. I chuckled. Not exactly the most conventional way to meet someone. Selena nodded. True, but I hope this isn't the last time we see each other. I hesitated. I don't know. Maybe, she replied. Maybe is better than never. She turned and walked away toward the elevators. I stood there for a long moment watching her disappear. The surreal strangeness of it all was just starting to hit me. I shook my head, grabbed my toolkit, and went back to work like nothing had happened. But in the back of my mind, I knew something had changed. I didn't expect to ever see Selena again. At least, that's what I thought. 2 months passed. I barely thought about her anymore. Life at the hotel had gone back to normal, same clogged drains, same faulty AC units, same endless parade of conference guests and tourists. The surreal night with Selena had started to feel like some bizarre fever dream. I imagined until one Thursday afternoon. I was in the maintenance room going over work orders when the front desk paged me. Landon, can you come up to the front desk? There's someone here asking for you. I frowned. No one ever asked for me. I wiped my hands on a rag and made my way through the lobby. That's when I saw her, Selena. She stood near the check-in counter, casually dressed in a black jacket and fitted jeans, her hair in soft waves over her shoulders. She looked as stunning as I remembered. When our eyes met, she smiled gently and waved. I froze. I didn't know whether to turn around or walk up. My legs chose for me. Hey, she greeted softly as I approached. Selena, I said, stunned. What are you doing here? Can we talk? She asked, ignoring the curious glances of a few hotel guests nearby. We walked outside to a quiet bench under the trees by the side entrance. I sat stiffly still, trying to understand what was happening. I know I probably shouldn't have come, she began, but I've been thinking about you ever since that night. I shook my head, confused. I honestly didn't expect to ever see you again. I know, she said, but I couldn't leave it the way we did. I looked at her seriously. Selena, I don't know what you're hoping for. That was a weird night. It wasn't supposed to happen. I know, she repeated, her voice softer. But you were kind. You were patient. You didn't take advantage of the situation. You just helped me. And I haven't stopped thinking about that. I stared at her silent. I wanted to tell you that I'm free now, she said. My business with him is over. I got what I needed. I'm not that woman anymore. I raised an eyebrow, cautious. I didn't think you were a bad person, Selena. I don't know. It was complicated. I know it was complicated, she admitted, then smiled faintly. But I wanted to ask if you'd give me a chance to know you properly as myself. No secrets, no crazy misunderstandings. I studied her for a long moment. She wasn't a mysterious seductress from that night anymore. She looked normal, almost nervous, like someone trying to fix a mistake. What are you asking exactly? I asked. Just a simple dinner, she said. No pressure, just two people getting to know each other. Part of me wanted to say no. I wasn't sure I wanted to reopen that door, but something about her honesty softened me. Okay, I finally agreed. Dinner, that's it. She beamed, genuinely happy. Thank you, Landon. You won't regret it. We met the following Saturday at a quiet Italian place about 15 minutes from the hotel. I showed up in jeans and a button-down. She wore a navy dress and simple heels. It was the first time I'd seen her outside the chaos of the hotel, and she looked even more beautiful in the calm setting. We ordered wine, talked. I learned she was originally from Portland. She worked in art licensing. She traveled a lot for her job. She loved hiking and photography. She had a dry sense of humor I hadn't expected. I guess I've been pretty terrible at first impressions, she joked. I laughed. You could say that. She shook her head, smiling. I honestly thought I'd ruined any chance of ever seeing you again. I've replayed that night over and over in my head. You had every right to walk away and never speak to me. I almost did, I admitted, but you seemed different. You still do. The conversation shifted to easier topics, music books, travel stories. For a few hours, it felt like two ordinary people just enjoying each other's company. At the end of the night, we stood by her car. The awkward goodbye moment lingered between us. I know you probably don't trust me yet, she said softly, but I hope you'll give me a chance to change that. I still don't know what to make of you, Selena, I said truthfully. She smiled warmly. That's fair. I'm not in a rush. We said goodnight. I walked to my truck, shaking my head, still not believing the strange turn my life had taken. I didn't know where this was going, but for the first time, I wasn't completely against finding out. The weeks that followed our dinner were a mixture of confusion and cautious curiosity. Selena texted me occasionally sometimes, just to say hi, sometimes to share a funny photo from her travels. I always replied politely, but kept my distance. I couldn't shake the feeling that no matter how normal she seemed now, I had seen a side of her life I didn't fully understand and maybe never would. One evening, I was finishing up an emergency repair in one of the elevators when my phone buzzed. It was her. Selena, are you free tonight? I'd really like to see you. I stared at the message for a long moment. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I typed back, okay, one coffee, that's all. We met at a small cafe a few blocks from the hotel. She was already there when I walked in, seated at a corner table with two coffees waiting. She smiled softly when she saw me. Thank you for coming, she said. I nodded and sat down. So what's going on? She looked down at her cup, tracing the rim with her finger. I've been thinking a lot about you, about me, about that night, about how I dragged you into a situation you never asked for. I stayed quiet. You didn't deserve that, she continued. You handled it better than I ever could have hoped. You were kind, patient, and I think maybe in a weird way, that's why I kept wanting to see you. I sipped my coffee. Selena, you're a great person. I don't hate you. I never did, but I'm still not sure what you expect from me. She sighed, her expression softening. I don't know. A second chance? A real chance I've put all of that mess behind me. I swear I want something normal, real. I set my cup down and looked her directly in the eyes. That's the thing. I don't think I can be that guy for you. I've thought about this a lot. I can't get past how it all started. I know people change, but I don't want to always wonder what else I don't know. Her smile faded, replaced by something sadder, quieter. I understand. I like my simple life, I added. I like knowing what to expect. That night, that was the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. And I don't want crazy in my life, Selena. I'm sorry. She nodded slowly, staring at her coffee. I figured, I hoped, but I knew. There was a long pause. Neither of us spoke. I wasn't trying to hurt her, but I also knew I had to be honest. Finally, she looked up again. I'm glad I met you, Landon. I'll always be grateful you were the one who knocked on that door. It could have gone so badly with someone else. I'm glad I met you too, I admitted. It was unforgettable. She laughed softly. That's one way to describe it. We stood up, both knowing this was the last time. We walked out of the cafe into the cool night air. She turned to me one last time. Take care of yourself, Landon, she said, offering a small, sad smile. You too, Selena. I watched as she walked away down the street and disappeared into the crowd. I stood there for a minute, just breathing. I felt oddly at peace. There was no anger, no regret, just closure. The next morning, I woke up early like always. I grabbed my toolkit and headed to work. The hotel was the same broken door locks, same flickering hallway lights, same loud tourists. But I was different. I had learned something about myself. I wasn't chasing unpredictable adventures. I didn't want a life full of chaos and mystery. I wanted something steady, something real. And I was finally okay with that. Selena never contacted me again. I never reached out. We both knew the chapter had closed. And so life went on simple, ordinary, exactly the way I liked it. Landon's unexpected night at the Westbrook Suites Hotel delivers a powerful life lesson about the importance of staying true to your values even when life throws you into chaotic, unpredictable situations. Caught in a whirlwind of mistaken identity and moral ambiguity, Landon's choice to remain calm, kind, and honest despite temptation and confusion shows that integrity is a steady anchor in turbulent moments. His story teaches us that while life's surprises can test our boundaries, they also reveal who we are at our core. Landon's decision to prioritize simplicity and stability over a thrilling but unstable connection with Selena underscores the courage it takes to choose a path that aligns with your authentic self. This narrative is a reminder to trust our instincts, set clear boundaries, and seek relationships that offer genuine trust and clarity rather than fleeting excitement. It's an emotional call to embrace the beauty of a steady, predictable life, recognizing that true contentment often lies in the ordinary moments we cherish. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to choose between excitement and stability? Your stories connect us and spark meaningful conversations. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to join our community of heartfelt storytelling. Let's keep exploring life's profound lessons together.